All right, welcome back to the VIBE Edu podcast. As Kim is already starting to fan herself, we are ready to go. So this is the fourth mailbag for the VIBE group, and we are so thankful because people have been submitting questions to this group, and I think I've got at least 6 questions that I'm looking at. So we'll see how many we actually get to. But Kim, we can start off with someone who is dreaming about the VIBE Edu podcast, specifically about TJ ranting, which I love so much. But if you guys are ready, unless Kim, you want to share a little backstory behind the dream. I don't know if you want to put that out there.
I woke up this morning to a Voxer message from a teacher who said, Kim, I had this dream last night where I was listening to the VIBE EDU podcast. And in my dream, I started like dozing away. And then I looked back at my phone and it was like just TJ. Like it was just TJ. And he was like talking and ranting. And I looked down at the podcast episode and the title of the episode had changed. And it was just like TJ's rant. And so it turned into a good laugh. However, we really do love a good rant, TJ. And we're hoping for one, later today for sure.
They're spontaneous.
You just never know when it's going to happen.
You never know.
All right. Well, I appreciate folks reaching out to us and letting us know these wonderful things. So if anyone else is dreaming about the VIBE Edu podcast, please let us know, or anything else that's coming up where this show is supporting you. And of course, if you want to throw that in a rating or review for the podcast, we're not going to say no to that either. But Kim, she also put out a question. So I want to start with this. So the question is, I want to be able to share the idea of a book study. This is something that we talked about in a previous episode with her principal, but she doesn't know how to go about it without it sounding like she's telling the principal what to do. And I think this happens quite often with a lot of teachers. They have a great idea that they have, or maybe it's something that they've read in a book or heard on a podcast, and they want to bring that to leadership, but they don't really know how to go about that. So specifically for this VIBE EDU crew, if they're talking about a book study to the principal, what is some advice that you have?
And when you guys are thinking about this, I think I really want you, we talked about this last time, like the language and the phrasing. Like if I'm a teacher and I'm on a leadership team, heart of gold, it's hard for me to maybe have those conversations and just like knock, knock, knock. Like, what does that look like? Is it an email first? Like, what does that look like and sound like? Give me some phrases. Because if I'm a teacher and I ask this question or I'm thinking about it, like right now, as I'm listening, I probably have like a piece of paper out and a Flair pen. And I'm like ready to write this down. So what does that sound like?
Well, I would definitely not use language that was going to make somebody defensive about something that wasn't their idea or that they didn't do or initiate. So like saying stuff like we used to and we don't anymore, or you should. I think I would stay away from that kind of stuff. But I would also be direct. I mean, this is part of what we train people on with candor is I would have a book in mind. I'd have a reason why that book would be important. I would run that by a few people who might agree with it to get some feedback. But yeah, I would just go for it. But the having the book in mind, like this is a leadership book. It's about, these types of things. We want to be able to do this as a team. That kind of language, I think, is important.
Yeah, and I think if it's possible to present or pitch the idea of a book study tied very specifically to goals or pain points the school's focused on already, of course, that's going to help. But there's also a culture conversation too, like building a book study culture at the school. So this isn't just a one-time thing, like this one book, but that how about we read a couple books, one book a semester, or and focus on specific ideas or topics, or again, like pain points, goals of the school. That tends to resonate. And then to do your research, if you want to do a book study, I would encourage you to figure out how, like, the logistics of that. And it's not a bad idea to reach out to the author. Most authors would love to hear from somebody if they want to read their book, right? So, and I remember the first time I did that with Patrice Bain and Pooja Agarwal with Powerful Teaching. I read it and I was like, I have to know these people. So I just emailed them and they both emailed me back like within 24 hours. I was like, whoa, right? And now I consider them friends. And I think that that's part of it too. Like just be proactive. And so when you do pitch the idea to a school leader, you have more than just, hey, this book's written. And just having this book and it's really great. And I think this would be good for us. That's not a bad thing, but do a little bit of due diligence and whatnot could be helpful.
I mean, when I think of books, so every single summer, myself and my community teachers, we always read a book. And it's not about teaching. And the reason why I do that is because the culture in my community is it's personal growth, right? It's personal growth right now. And so we all have that shared mindset. So when, for the listeners, the teachers that are listening going, I really want to do this, just think about this for a hot second, right? Like take yourself out of your teaching in your classroom, talking to a principal, get out of that mindset right now and just think the culture of this community is personal development and personal growth. And I always think about when I'm choosing a book very intentionally, it's what do we all need? Like, what am I reading right now that I personally need, that I've had like a million of ahas. I've taken all my pens out. I'm written in like all the margins. I'm underlining, I'm highlighting, I'm taking pictures, like those types of books. Like, I know I'm not the only one that needs it. And when I think about the other people in my community, I know that it's really going to resonate with this person and this person and this person, because I know what they're going through also. So now using that knowledge, think about you in the classroom and your leadership team and really think about what books you all should read that are really going to resonate with you, the ones that are going to get you fired up, the ones that are going to ignite you, where you're going to be writing, you're going to be highlighting, you're going to want to take the pictures and post the things and tag the author on Instagram. Like you want that kind of vibe around this, not like, well, this is a book that I know this other school is reading, their leadership team, so therefore we should probably read it. No, be very intentional, be thinking about that, because you want it to feel worthwhile. I think if you're really going to do that, it's got to feel worthwhile. And like you said, reaching out to those authors, I always reach out to the authors and start conversations. And now guess what? They are my friends. And the teachers in my community, even just yesterday, were commenting in one of our authors, Judy Haller. She's phenomenal. She wrote Fear is My Homeboy, which we all read as a community a couple of years ago. But they're commenting on her posts. And then I'm commenting in there too. And the author's commenting back. And we're just talking about life. I mean, you want that, because it's not just about the book or the book study. Like, this is stuff that you want to take you guys on a journey, a professional journey. So think about that. It's not just like check the box and do this, you know?
Yeah. I would also say you want to make sure that when you're coming to the meeting that you have everything in place as far as your talking points. So this is going to sound crazy, but for most administrators, they're thinking about the logistics more than anything else. And so when you're coming in, you want to be able to talk, okay, I want to do a book study, but these are the participants that are going to be a part of the book study. So is it going to be campus wide? Is it just a subject matter? Is it just a team? Who is actually participating in the book study? Then is the book study aligned with the goals of the campus? Maybe look at the campus improvement plan if you have access to that. Does it align with whatever is going on with the campus for that year? Because if you can align it to that, it's a really easy yes for the administrator. Then you got to think about the outcomes. Like, once the book study is done, what are you hoping will be instilled with the participants that are actually going to the book study? So you actually have that laid out for the administrator. And the other thing too is the budget. We always, administrators are always looking at the budget, right? So, do you have funds that are funneling in from PTA or PTO that can pay for it? Or do you have another organization that will have the funds available for a book study? Or is this coming out of pocket for that principal or the district? And so you got to understand where maybe the budget's coming from and who's going to pay for that. And then also the logistics. How often are you meeting? Do you have a book study resource that goes with the book to be able to have questions and talking points during those sessions? So if you have all this laid out for the principal, it makes it so much easier for them to make a decision quicker. And then you can get the ball rolling as far as what you want to do.
Yeah, you make a really good point about the infrastructure of a book study. It's not just we all read chapter 1 and we showed up to the meeting.
Right.
It's much more than that. And a lot of authors will actually either sell a guide or have a free guide or sell a process that they go through several meetings where they can show up and run the book study. So that's an option if that's also in the budget. But I also want to just validate that it's a really good idea. I didn't say that at the beginning. A book study, I think, is a must at a leadership team meeting or even a faculty. Like, we're educators and books have a lot of really important information in them, and we learn that way. And so the idea itself is really good. And when I talk to school leaders about their leadership team meetings, which I'm, coaching them on a structure, for example, for that meeting, a third of the meeting is spent on the capacity of the people at that meeting. So building their capacity, building their knowledge base, building their skills and ability to lead whatever other initiatives we're talking about at the other 2/3 of the meeting. I think that might have been the rant that I was on that the person was dreaming about who had the question about the book study. So there it is again.
I was thinking,
But
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was thinking, because I know this teacher and because I know this school, and Josh, you were just talking and I was looking at the language of behavior behind you. I think that with the work that I know that they've done with social emotional learning, I know that, and again, I'm just an outsider, but I know these teachers very well. And I know that they're looking for specifics. They're looking for language. They're looking for more of that. And I think that that would be a beautiful next step for them. But again, having that knowledge about where they are, what the initiatives are that are in place and where they want to go. Like, we all have to have that knowledge. And again, I mean, I'm just saying, I think it would be a perfect book. But just because you have one book doesn't mean like it needs to be the book, like you can always have a couple different options and be thinking about how long it's going to take. So that, again, you have next steps too. It's not like we just did this book, we checked the box, and then therefore our book study is over, like make it part of the culture that you always do it. And that next year it's going to be this book, right? Next year, it's all about executive functioning. And so therefore we need Mitch's book because he's coming out with this elementary one for K through 3, K through 3rd, K through 2nd. What is it?
Yeah.
What is
K
it?
through 3.
Yes. I was thinking, again, I know this school, that would be a beautiful next step, but a conversation around that of like, it's not, let's just do this book study this year. I'm thinking that this would be a great idea. And next year, this could be the plan, like you got to know where you're going, Mitch, will you also talk about, I mean, I know TJ kind of talked about it, but some authors will do a series. Will you kind of talk about that? Because you've done that before with schools and districts. Will you talk about that?
Yeah. The way I structure it, and it sounds like TJ's done the same, and Josh, maybe you have as well, but kind of like giving options for schools depending, and to be perfectly honest, it usually comes down to, do they have the time for it and the budget for it? But the leadership or even probably better said, the book study leadership team, because oftentimes it's like teacher organized, and not that school leadership's not a part of it, but it's not always just the school leader, but want more structure and a more robust professional learning experience. And so the structure is that, okay, we'll give you have 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it is, to read these 3 chapters and bring all your questions. When we meet, we're going to meet live with Mitch for an hour. He's going to teach on some of the topics, some of the strategies, but more importantly, we're going to have this dialogue, this conversation, interaction. And then another 3 weeks, let's say, whatever it is, next 3 chapters. And so it kind of makes it bite-sized, but it makes for really rich conversation, especially like the third one be the wrap-up. And we're talking about everything, the whole book at that point. Other schools have, if you have 3 or 4 live visits, it's going to cost more than 1. So some have done a concluding session because it fits for the budget. And TJ and I, you've mentioned this, before we hit record, I'll show up for like a kickoff. Hey, everybody, you're going to be reading this over the next month or two. I'm going to meet live with you then. And I always throw out, if you get questions along the way, here's my email. Like, it's just a different experience than a book study without the author. So that's something else to consider, kind of wrapping it into a more robust professional learning experience. And they're really fun, to be honest. I've done it with a group of 5 all the way up to hundreds of teachers on the call. And it just makes for good internal conversation, and then just fun, internal meaning the school or the district, and fun on the call too. So
I'd also say that it allows the admin to have another voice that's supporting what you're trying to do on your campus. I don't know about you, TJ, but I know I would say something in front of the staff and it kind of went into one ear and out the other. And then I'd pay someone to come in to talk about the exact same thing. And they would say almost verbatim the exact information and data and initiatives and strategies that they should do. And everyone's like, that was the most wonderful thing I've ever heard. And I get so frustrated. I'd be like, I just said that like 2 weeks ago. Why? Like, it doesn't have the same impact. You know, they hear you so often that sometimes they tune you out. And so if you were to have someone else that was to support what you're trying to do on your campus, then I think that goes a long way too.
That's the value of a consultant. I mean, one of the reasons why you hire a consultant in the first place.
Yeah.
They don't always just know more or have more expertise. They're able to frame things for people in a way that you can't when you're there day to day. So, I mean, a lot of people shy away from consultants because they seems like we're spending money on something we already know how to do, but there is a lot of value in hiring somebody to hold your hand through a process and help you think about things in a way that you weren't thinking about them, whether it's your teacher or your leadership team.
Well, it's that saying, 50 miles makes an expert, is there for a reason, right? If it's just somebody
can't be a preacher in your backyard.
right. It's yeah, there's something to be said. Some of the most intimidating talks I've ever given were when I was still in the classroom and I was speaking to my colleagues at my school or my district, right? So it was kind of homegrown. One other thing I will throw out there, and I don't know if we can talk about book studies. Who knew we could talk about a book study this long? They're fun. Just do it. That's what I would say. Like TJ said at the end, just go for it. Just ask. But
that's the Cliff Note version.
Yeah. The interesting thing, the school I was visiting in Florida last month in January, if you guys remember, they have a culture of book studies, but they actually had 3 or 4 summer reading options, and teachers could opt in. And it was a pre-K through 8th grade campus. So different learning environments, different spaces, but that's something to consider too. Maybe it's doesn't have to just be one book. I don't know. I like the idea of at least one a semester though. Like we're reading this.
Yeah.
You know, but again, that's a cultural thing. And all this to be said, let's say you're an admin, which I can't imagine, but with this teacher in particular, the admin's like, no, we're not doing a book study. Do your own book study. Books don't cost that much. Get a few colleagues that you think would start a book study.
Right? I always have a book study going. I'm always reading books with people and picking books. And when I was an assistant super, I had that with a number of different people in a number of different lanes that we would read books. And then when I was a principal, my leadership team got their books at the beginning every year. It wasn't like I picked one book and then I was going to pick another one. They got their 3 or 4 books with the structure we were going to use to read those books at our leadership team and study them at the leadership team meeting. They got them at the beginning, and I laid it out and said, we're going to read this, and then we're going to read this, and then we're going to read this, and here's why. Here's why we're reading them, and here's the series that we're going to go through this year. And definitely ask the author for 15 minutes. I mean, I've never turned somebody down for a 15-minute Q&A. Would you pop on the screen for free? A 15-minute Q&A for free. Like, if you're going to ask an author to do a book study, yeah, that's going to come with a price tag. But lots of authors, and especially education authors, if you pick like an education leadership book, will do 15 to 30 minutes with your team at no cost because you bought 10 or 12 or 13 of their books, which we don't make a ton of money on books very much at all, but it's nice to interact with the readers.
And if you can go big, I bet an author would give you an hour for free. If you buy 200 books,
For
I
sure.
bet they would show up.
Can't hurt to ask.
Can I give you guys a hypothetical?
Sure.
Hypothetically, what if there was a consultant who met with a leadership group across the district? And hypothetically, this consultant asked this leadership team, what books are you reading? And their response was, we're not reading any books. I don't read books. The last book I read was like books from like Skinner in my, when I was getting my degree. And those are the last behavior books that I've read, and I don't read anything. And then let's say hypothetically, this consultant says, well, okay, this year, let's come together and let's read a book you choose. There's this one or this one or this one, let's just say. And then let's say hypothetically, the leadership team who's in charge from the district level says to the consultant, we're not going to expect them to read. And there's no budget for books for this school year. And that's completely off the table. Hypothetically, if this happened, what's your opinion on that?
I'm waiting for TJ's. Yeah, I was waiting for TJ to explode here. So go ahead, TJ.
No, I mean, I don't know that I totally follow the scenario. So they've hired a consultant to help them, but they're unwilling to read books. That doesn't match to me.
That is exactly hypothetically what I am saying.
So they hired the consultant to help them with problems. That they had money for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think books are free consulting. Like, frankly, you know, we put all our ideas in all our books. You take them and read them, and that's how we're saying that's how we would coach leaders. And that's, you know, a lot more value in having the one-on-one support. But I don't know. I would be flabbergasted if somebody said that to me and I was hired as a consultant. But I would, you know me, I would challenge them and just say, that doesn't make a lot of sense. We're going to get a lot of value out of reading books in between sessions. And I might even, as a consultant in that type of frame, recommend that, well, you hired me to come in and I've written books and I can't like read 200 pages to you. So why don't you read the book, and in between sessions, we'll create a book study that goes with the consulting.
TJ, I think we should do like an Andy Kaufman situation. Just put him in the auditorium and just pull out the book and just start reading the entire time. You know that bit? No?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too, Kim, I would push back just like TJ in the sense that like, so we're willing to ask kids to read every single day to learn, but we're not going to do that for our staff.
Right.
Like that, none of this makes sense to me in my mindset. Is what TJ was talking about is for bringing in someone to literally help in some way. That person now is suggesting something that's obviously extremely impactful and is going to make a ripple on your campus, and you're going to say no. I guess none of that makes sense to me either.
Interesting. Mitch, any opinion?
Well, but think about it, Kim. Yeah, I know he's going to say it, but think about it as far as like, Kim, have you done on a campus? Have you done a book study before?
Yes, in fact. Well, I'll take it two ways. Being a teacher, one of the very first book studies that I like that, I mean, I guess we did them before, but one that stuck with me was Teach Like a Pirate by Dave Burgess.
Sure.
And that book was like, it was a type of book where you took like all the Post-its, right? And like all the highlight, and like, yes, this is me, go. Like, you know, all those things. But I think working with working with a school or a school district, I mean, my favorite books are always like Lost at School or Eyes Are Never Quiet. Like those types of books really resonate with educators, again, who are curious and open and ready to expand. That's what we say. And when we say this is kind of what we're suggesting, I mean, that's it's life-changing work when you get to really, when you dive, we say cannonball into this work. When you read something like that together and you like cry together and you go, oh my God, that was like my mindset before. And how do I move forward with this new mindset? Like those are the books that change culture. Those are the books that you want.
There's other problems if school leaders are not reading books like that.
For sure.
Leaders are readers. And I said it on the show, but the average CEO reads 60 books a year. And I'd be trying to read more than that if I was, running a school is big business, man. It's hard work, but
Yeah.
I would be trying to learn as much as I could about leadership, learning, teaching, and I would want my leadership team who is around me to have that wealth of knowledge as well. And one more tip, and then Mitch is right. We've been talking about book studies for 25 minutes, but one more tip. Let's say you don't have access to the author. You can't get a hold of the author. Lots of people who are book writers also go on these tours where they're on podcasts and they're on YouTube shows and they're on channels like this one that we're on. I would get as much of that content as well and bring it in. Like I recently read earlier in 2025, I read Revenge of the Tipping Point, and I watched every Malcolm Gladwell video where he talked about Revenge of the Tipping Point that I could get my hands on. And a lot of stuff was on YouTube and I could just watch it from my couch on my TV. And so it really helped augment and helped me understand the concepts.
Or they have free webinars. They have other content out there that you can consume at a different time. Or like you said, TJ,
sure.
I mean, how many times did you throw on a podcast on your drive to work? I mean, there were so many times that, I'd find an author that I loved. I didn't really have time to sit down and read, but I could find ways to consume their content in a way that's going to fit into my insane, crazy, busy leadership lifestyle. Sorry, Mitch, go ahead.
I had a thought that for this teacher in particular, it might be the conversation with school leadership to fund a book study might be just for those teachers who want to opt in to a book study. So it could be 5 people, 4 people, 3, 10 people. It doesn't necessarily, a book study doesn't necessarily have to be campus wide if that's not the culture, but don't let that stop you.
Well, and if you're not getting buy-in from your admin, that doesn't mean the door is completely shut. I mean, I could think of a couple times where some of our teachers, we didn't have in our budget, so they got like 5 or 6 people that wanted to read the book. They all purchased themselves. They got it used at a local bookstore or online, and it was a couple bucks, and they all just bought the book themselves and met on their own. And it wasn't sanctioned by any leader. It was just them wanting to learn. They knew a group of them wanted the content and to learn something that they can implement right away into their classrooms. And so they just did it. Well, if that's the case, like we talk about this on the podcast all the time, like you don't have to have a title to be a leader. So like if this is something that you see, then do something about it. There's ways to do a book study that doesn't require admin to have any hands in it. Now, if they do, obviously that's going to be the best case scenario.
And any of us will join you for free. We've got your back, whatever teacher this is that Kim knows. And she's not saying this teacher's name, but I'll volunteer all of my co-authors here.
Thanks,
or fellow authors, I should say.
I also would love to know how many times we've said book study. I would just love to know. And also just thinking, it doesn't need to be called a book study. Nope. You could call it something else if you know, and again, this is the knowing. If you know your teachers, you know your administrator, you know the vibe that it's going to get. Are you going to get people that retract? Ugh, ew, a book study, I'm out. If you know that that's going to be their response, then don't call it that. Call it something else. And by the way, use ChatGPT. My colleagues will probably act this way to a book study. Give me some other phrases to make it blah, blah, blah. I mean, go. Just press go. Book study.
Book study. All right. Moving on. I don't know if we'll get, I think we have time for maybe one more. So I'm going to try and make it a good one. All right. Maybe this coincides with what we're talking about. So we have talked about mentorship in a lot of different formats throughout our series. And so this one says, how do we get true mentorship in schools beyond the new teacher induction program?
Ooh.
So in your eyes, what does that look like?
TJ.
Say that again.
How do we get true mentorship in schools beyond the new teacher induction program?
Mentorship for teachers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're visual, so here you go. Here's a banner for you.
Well, now you know I'm going to read it.
We'll give you time. Well, I'll give you some wait time.
I can tell you my experience.
Please.
I remember being super hungry and wanting to be really good. And I went around campus and figured out who was really good. And just my colleagues. And we had a really great district internal induction program. And one of the 2 years that I was a part of that, my person was amazing. It was really, really good. But I also made a point to befriend people on my campus that I just knew were really good and were kind of like, you know what I mean? Like you would meet them and you could sense like, oh, we could be friends, colleagues and friends, and I could learn from you, or some people may not be open to that. I never had, most people were. And to the point where one guy in particular, is the best professional development I ever did was I would film myself in the back of the classroom. I'd hide a flip camera and a plant in the back of the room so none of the kids knew it was there. So it wasn't staged. And my colleague, who had years on me, was gifted, is a gifted teacher. We would take that recording and he would make dinner and we would watch it and he would critique me and I would ask questions, and it's vulnerable, but all of that was just like rogue mentorship that I went seeking. It wasn't sanctioned by anybody. I was lucky enough to, again, have good mentors early on in my district and at my school. But I think some of that self exploration, like go find the people and learn from them. But filming yourself and watching it, best PD you could ever do.
I think that's really good advice.
Yeah.
I think that's really good advice. So I'm going to underscore two things. One, the filming is really good. Like that's hard to watch yourself back as a teacher.
It's so bad. Yeah.
But
it's so weird. Yeah.
It's the best form of PD though, man, especially if you can do that with a partner. And I like the rogue. The word rogue is great. I would just say informally. My answer is if you want to be in a mentoring program and it's not there past the induction, just start an informal mentoring program. And you don't have to knock on somebody's door and say, will you be my mentor? I mean, there's a lot of reciprocal stuff in peer-to-peer mentoring where if we just have a group of people who want to get better at this and we meet regularly and we observe each other in the classroom and we're willing to give our best advice, that's mentoring.
I was just thinking too, like, I mean, I have a Facebook group community, right? There's about, 800 and something people in there, Becoming the Bison. And the teachers who we coach and mentor, they very intentionally will post things to inside that Facebook group to get people to understand, like, look, it just starts like this, right? This is how the conversation can go. This changed my goal setting, like all of those things are in there. And so if you can do all of these things, if you can find your people, you can record yourself, you can watch it with a safe person, and you can be in this community where you can like pull things from. I think that's like, I don't know, that could be magic, right?
So if I look preoccupied throughout this entire episode, it's because my tornado of a 4-year-old is buzzing around me. So I apologize if I have been off screen or, again, look like my attention is elsewhere. All right. So my thought process is like some of the things that I did, because here's the problem with a lot of districts is that if you're a new teacher and you start out, they'll put you with someone on the campus typically for 1 year. But my thing is like, and I've really pushed this as administrators, that why does it stop after one? Are they experts after 1 year? No. And all of us have been teachers or have done it for a really long time. And like, I don't know about you all, but I didn't feel like I had my grasp of teaching until maybe year 4. like the start of year 4 is when I started feeling comfortable in the strategies and things that I had implemented that were like, okay, I feel like I know what I'm doing. I'm not great yet. Maybe I'm just good, but I'm not terrible like I was year 1, right? I've gone through the struggle, and so many times we just like throw people in the deep end and just hope that they swim. And then when they don't, they drown, then we just non-renew them. That's typically the system. And so why are we pulling that support? If water wings are the analogy here, why are we pulling the water wings off after year 1 when they don't still have the necessary skills to be excellent swimmers? And so for anyone out there, if you're year 1 through 4 and you still feel like you need support, then do what Mitch is talking about. I used to show up in classrooms all the time. I'd just give a little wave and I'd sit in the back and I'd watch someone teach during my off period. And I was taking notes and I was diligent about it. And then it led to a conversation because they're like, hey, that's super cool. Like, you're here. Thank you for so much. And then they would start a conversation about it. And then I'd be like, hey, can I just come in once in a while, like during off period, just to learn from you? You're a veteran. I've heard wonderful things about your class. Now I got to see it in person, and just starting that up. And then it was organically starting a mentorship that wasn't even like, to TJ's part, it wasn't assigned. It wasn't formal. I wasn't getting any notes back from them, but that was something I got from my student teaching days. That was just a campus thing. That was campus culture that I got to observe. When I got into a different campus in a different state, actually, that wasn't the culture there. So I had to do something about it. But I had seen a model. I had experienced it. So I knew what was good practice. So why wouldn't I continue that in the new campus, even though that wasn't set up for me? So that's what I would do. And then, as a young aspiring administrator, it didn't stop there. Yeah, I had campus mentors, I had campus coaches and people that I relied on, but I also went to other people that I knew were phenomenal leaders. And I had emailed and said, hey, on my lunch period, can I come to your campus and just meet with you for 30 minutes? I get the okay from my admin, and I would do that. And that was for me just to learn, because I knew that eventually I was going to get promoted. I was going to go to a different campus and it was going to look completely different than where I was there today. And so why wouldn't I want to get that expertise and those experiences from them and some advice? And so I think if you're wanting something to happen, then be hungry. Go out there and start making things happen for yourself.
And if it's possible, and this may be lost on a lot of our audience, because I'm assuming many of the educators tuning in are part of your community, Kim. But if someone listening is not, consider, investing in yourself financially and joining a community that I think you'll be surprised how financially realistic it is to join a community that gives, tons of feedback, not saying anything bad about a Facebook group or anything. Like, you could join, there's plenty of those, Kim's included, but to invest, like put some dollars into your growth and mentorship is not in the cards for everybody, but I definitely throw that out there because I think you'll be surprised when you just start by researching Kim's community if you don't know it. If you're an aspiring leader, look into Josh's community and cohorts, and you'd be surprised, I think, what can come from something. And then you have that kind of back to the book study, not to keep talking about book studies, but it's a more structured mentorship, right? There's some accountability. I'm investing in this. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to participate in a way that's maybe not quite as passive. So if that's in the cards for you, I would seriously consider investing in yourself. Let's book study.
Yeah. You know what else too? I want to speak to the mentors, because I know we have some people on here who are also the official mentors for teachers. Be open to what you can learn from your mentee. I think that reciprocal agreement is really important. Like, my first real mentor when I was a teacher, I had to observe his classroom, right? He was part of the structure. And at the end of the observation, I had all my notes and we went over and he said, so what should I do differently? And I'm like, that wasn't part of what I was thinking about. I'm a second year teacher. You're a 25-year veteran. And he was like, no, but you went to teacher college and you've had to observe teaching before and you know what it's like to be a learner. Tell me what I can do better. And from there on out, I remember thinking, I'm going to be like that guy. I'm never going to stop learning, and especially not from the newest people who have the freshest eyes.
Yeah, that's well said.
Okay, Josh, should we wrap up?
I think so.
Okay.
All right. So in the future, of course, we're going to continue the VIBE EDU mailbag. If this is new for you, this is something we do in between our series. So we do a 4-part series on a topic, and then in between we do the mailbag. And the idea behind it is that we want to make sure that we are answering questions. If we can go deeper in something that's maybe said and we spend a couple minutes on it, well, book study is a great opportunity for us to talk for about 40 minutes on something that we may have touched on for about 5 in a previous episode. So if there's something that has come up either in this episode or in a previous episode, and you want us to expand on it to give more emphasis, please reach out. You can do that through our websites. You can do that through social media. There's a lot of forums. If you're part of one of our communities, of course, you can ask during that time too. But we do appreciate you so much, not only for listening, but for also contributing to the show. And we would love for you to do that continuously as we move forward. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful week. And do we even know what we're going to talk about next time?
Nope.
No? All right.
Since the pre-show is 45 minutes, we'll figure it out next time we see each other.
Just to pull the curtain back, y'all. We talk for a very long time. All right. With that, again, we hope to see you again next week, and it'll be a surprise for all of us as to what we're going to talk about.